Over the last decade, the revenue model for sport organization at all levels of professional sport and a growing number of colleges has changed dramatically. With the advent of fully loaded sport facilities and destination venues that characterized the construction boom of the 90s and early 2000s, sport managers had been able to develop new sources of revenue. Today's lecture will talk about some of those new sources of revenue, in addition to raising capital and ticket sales of sport organizations. There are several revenue streams that warrant discussion in today's lecture. Among those are naming rights, personal seat licenses, premium seating, etc. Sport managers need new sources of revenue due to construction boom, and perhaps no single development in the last several decades has more of a transformational effect on major team sport than luxury seating. Luxury suites, originally called skyboxes, are a universal and dominant feature of every new stadium and arena built since the early 1990s. So why is there such a push for luxury seating, and what are the two problems associated with luxury seating? Well, the rapid growth and development of luxury suites are attributable to the substantial revenue they produce. The Palace at Auburn Hills initiated the trend, but more recent adaptations have now taken the concept of premium seating to a much higher level. Nowhere is the enormous revenue-generating capacity of luxury seating more apparent than at the Staples Center. Also, NBA arenas were at 3% luxury seating 10 years ago. Now they are upwards of 20 to 25% total luxury seating. There are some problems, basically two. Number one is the economy. Number two is market saturation. The economy, for example, people don't have the money, and corporations especially don't have the money these days to be able to purchase these lavish suites. And in market saturation, obviously with the NBA, if 25% of their seats in their stadium are luxury seats, makes saturation an even more pressing issue. Also, this idea of suite reselling. This enables the teams to establish a long-term partnership with corporate suite holders who do not want to share the suite. These resale arrangements are sometimes called suite adoption programs, and it seems probable that partnerships will emerge between teams and their best corporate suite tenants. On the naming rights side, a couple questions above again. Why would a company want their name on a stadium, and what are the problems with corporate naming rights? Well, corporations seek the naming rights for two fundamental reasons. Initially, it was driven by corporations' desire to take advantage of the exposure afforded the company by taking a name of a conspicuous public attraction. More recently, an increasingly prominent driving force behind corporate naming rights agreements has been sponsors' desire to use the facility as a platform for increasing sales. Most are companies that have limited amount of brand exposure, meaning the 24/7 brand exposure, such as Ericsson, Staples, Lincoln Financial, Wachovia, Bank One, for example. Additional perks of the hosting corporations are boxes, seating, special privileges like parking. By 1997, 41 of 113 Major League facilities were named, and by 2002, 80 of 120. Today, nearly 90% of all stadiums have corporate names associated with them. The range of the contract is about 20 to 30 years, and the average is about $4 million a year. There's obviously different parts of the stadiums that have been named, from the facade to the lobby to the entrances. I've even seen the bathroom stalls recently named in a stadium I just visited. This idea of exposure really underpins the attractiveness of stadium financing or stadium naming. More recently, an increasingly prominent driving force has been sponsors' desire to use the facility for increasing sales or a sales platform. So, for example, you might see kiosks set up around the concourse or outside of the stadium prior to the contest, where an organization is trying to either sell products or have you to test drive products in order to sell them on down the line. Some of the major problems. Number one, when a stadium is named after it has an established identity, such as Candlestick Park, it is ignored and then disregarded for its new name. Other corporate issues, the Enron example, as you can see from the slide above, in Houston, and then First Union also bought the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, and now it's back to Wachovia. So you can have that change of identity all the time where people don't really assimilate too highly with the organization. In the case of Enron, you have an organization that was very socially irresponsible and very irresponsible with their finances. Therefore, the stadium had to be renamed as a result. This idea of naming rights didn't really happen over time. It was more of an evolutionary idea. So in the late 90s, naming rights agreements evolved from being one-dimensional signage deals, albeit on a grand new scale, to multi-dimensional integrated packages that provide corporate naming partners with a range of hospitality, media, and business building benefits in addition to exposure. They provide corporate naming partners with a range of hospitality and other benefits, and the corporate naming of major sports facilities is a relatively recent phenomenon. The first reputed naming rights agreement dates back to 1971, when Schaefer Brewing Company paid $150,000 to name the Patriots Stadium Schaefer Field. 2 years later, the Buffalo Bills renamed War Memorial Stadium Rich Stadium after Rich Products, a local frozen food supplier. 8 key elements to stating right deals. Number 1 is the term or length of contract. Number 2 is what we call consideration. What are the added benefits or added value to the organization? 3, signage rights and limitations, how big, where they're going to be placed, etc. What are the installation costs of the signage elements? Where do the marketing rights reside with that team, with the field, with the new renamed field? How do they terminate the contract, especially upon default, which means limited payment, or an organization goes bankrupt, or in the case of Enron, just goes away? What are the reimbursement options if it happens to fall by the wayside, such as the Enron example? And what are the renewal options after the 20-year contract or so is up? All right, shifting gears a little bit from the corporate side of the naming rights back to personal seat licenses, which focuses more on the individual ticket buyer, also referred to as PSLs. PSLs became widespread with the extraordinary increase in sport venues in the 1990s. PSLs essentially require an individual to purchase in advance the right to secure a particular seat in the venue. So you purchase the right to secure the seat for yourself. These buyers make a one-time payment that provides them with the opportunity to purchase a season ticket for a specified period of time, usually for as long as the team plays in that venue. So why do games or teams engage in this practice? The main reason is to raise capital for construction costs. It's very important for them to raise immediate capital, very critical for them to raise immediate capital, and it's sort of looked at in the same terminologies as an IPO, or initial public offering, for a company. So when a company goes public, they'll offer their shares of stock on the open market for a relatively a viable cost for the consumer, same way that teams offer these PSLs, especially if they're looking to renovate or build a brand new stadium. Great way to generate an influx of capital, quick and easy. What's the problem with them? Well, it makes fans pay for the right to purchase their season ticket. So above and beyond the inflated season ticket that they already have to pay for, now they have to pay for the right to buy that ticket by purchasing a seat in the stadium. What sport offers the most for PSLs? Well, the NFL offers its 10-game package, and with the cost of the NFL ticket and the scarcity of NFL tickets makes it more important, and baseball actually offers the least. Next couple of slides will focus specifically on ticket sales. One of the fundamental questions I want you to think about as we move through these next couple of slides are, how can professional sport leagues increase gate receipts? Sounds like an easy question to answer, right? Well, it's a little bit more complex than just selling more tickets or raising the face value of tickets. From 1991 to 2000, gate receipts grew 8.4% to an all-time high. However, in some sports, attendance actually dropped. Today we are seeing a steep decline in sport face value of tickets due to the sluggish economy and the glut of televised sport activity. The 3 most expensive stadiums ever constructed opened in 2009. The Dallas Cowboys' new stadium, the new Yankee Stadium, and Citi Field, the new home to the New York Mets. These stadiums were constructed based on the idea that the most expensive tickets will be close to the action and sold to corporations instead of lifelong fans. Some hospitality tickets at Dallas Stadium are still for sale at over $800,000 a season, not including the PSL, which we just discussed. In a normal competitive market, if you ask me what I think about prices, I'm going to tell you that they're about right. With professional sports monopoly position, this is not the case. Prices are too high and they're not right. And I see no alternative for owners but to eventually become more realistic about pricing their ticket options. Major League Baseball has about 81 home dates, almost double of any other sport and equal to the same price as some of the other sports. Very difficult to buy season tickets in these games. In terms of admission pricing, we want to focus first on what we call price sensitivity. Price sensitivity is the awareness of the consumer to what they perceive to be the window of cost within which they will buy a particular product or service. It is imperative that the marketing professional be able to assess price sensitivity in the target market accurately, as missing the alleged window, even by a small margin, can have an enormous consequence for the company's bottom line. Or the idea of price fluctuation, which is relative to the state of the economy. Economy is going down, prices go down. Economy goes higher, prices go higher. Major league teams are concerned with recovering costs in terms of facility, operations, etc. And just recently, this approach has been employed. 55% of teams across the four major sport leagues either reduced prices or kept them the same due to the economy or the sluggishness of the job market. Studies have equally shown that cost-oriented service providers do not lower their prices during slower demand periods, and there has also been no direct relationship between rising ticket prices and decreasing attendance. Very interesting. To understand costs associated with attendance, we look at what's referred to as the Fan Cost Index. And unfortunately, you're not able to click on the link above, but if you type in Fan Cost Index, it'll bring you to the team marketing report. And here you can click through and see what the average ticket price cost for any year, I think dating all the way back to the mid-90s. So each year before opening day, this team marketing report, or TMR, releases the Fan Cost Index, which tracks the cost of attendance for a family of four. TMR defines the FCI to include 2 average-priced adult tickets and 2 average-priced children's tickets, but also 2 small draft beers, 4 small soft drinks, 4 regular hot dogs, 2 programs, 2 of the least expensive adult-size adjustable caps, and parking for 1 vehicle. In short, while it might reflect how much a family that decides on the spur of the moment to go to one game of the season might spend, it far overstates the cost for most fans, who can easily eat before the game, sit in the cheap seats, and skip the souvenir caps. However, it does provide you with an understanding of the high cost associated with the sport. Now we're going to talk a little bit about attendance erosion and why fans are just simply not showing up to the ballparks anymore. Just a few weeks into the 2010 season, 19 of the 30 Major League Baseball teams were reporting attendance drop-offs. Could it be weather-related? Maybe. But there were 9 rainouts at big league parks last year at this time, and there have been only 3 this year. Could it be competition for basketball or hockey? Maybe. But there is always competition from basketball and hockey in April and May. Could it be big market teams doing well and small market teams struggling? Maybe. But the small market Pittsburgh Pirates are up an average of 1,600 fans per game, and the big market New York Mets are down almost 4,700. Could it be a matter of fans not supporting teams who haven't won in a while? Maybe. But the Pirates are up significantly after having not won in 18 years, and the Rays are down nearly 3,500 despite the first-place record and a first-rate roster. Could it be the economy? Maybe. But things are brighter economically in the U.S., or so the economists say, this year than they were last year. The Dow Jones at the New York Stock Exchange is over 11,000 a year ago. It was barely over 8,000. That's significant because corporations buy a substantial number of tickets, as we already discussed. One study actually suggested that up to 2/3 of all season tickets are purchased by corporations. Still, the nation's jobless numbers make it clear that about 1 in every 10 workers is out of work, and without individuals having the wherewithal to purchase tickets, baseball is bound to suffer. So in light of the various explanations just noted, there are 3 in particular that have stood out regardless of the externalities that have plagued the industry from year to year. Number 1, increased competition from the entertainment industry. Number 2, the availability of more sports programming on cable and free TV than ever before. And 3, the steady cost of increasing attendance of a major league sporting contest. In terms of college sport, tickets comprise almost 30% of the total income generated by the athletic department. They also focus on this idea of priority seating. So one approach taken by colleges is the priority seating approach. In order to purchase the best seats, you must make a donation to the athletic department. 90% or so of all D1 schools participate. So here at the University of Florida, in order to purchase the right to buy season tickets, they ask for a small donation of about $1,500, and that doesn't even guarantee you the right to purchase a ticket. If you got $10,000, they'll find 2 tickets for you right away. So how are ticket prices for sporting events determined? Do they guess? Is it incremental? Do they go up a percentage every year? Do they conduct research to find out how much the price thresholds or sensitivity levels are? They do all those things, but there are 2 main ways in which they really do them. Number 1 is they estimate the revenue they need from year to year, and they also estimate what the market will bear. So they look at comparables around the area, they look at what other teams in the same similar markets are charging, and focus on that. Also, when we discuss the costs associated with attendance, we need to understand several ancillary items as well. First is what we refer to as direct expenses. These are things like transportation, parking, and concessions. Second are what we refer to as non-monetary costs. This is the time it takes to travel to and from the ballpark and the wait time, so lines, security, etc. These costs may be more substantial and therefore may deter fans more than the prices themselves. Now, pricing strategies aren't just done on a whim. These marketers and league owners don't just throw out numbers and say, all right, $30 sounds like a good price for a ticket. There's the psychology behind pricing and the psychology of human social psychological behavior when it comes to paying for items. One of these methods is called the expected price threshold, and this is the expected range of prices the consumer is expecting to pay for the services offered. Too high, they'll not buy it. Too low, and the expectation of service will be low and in turn drive the consumer away. So if it's too high, you just turn it away. It's too much money for me to spend. Too low, you think the service is going to be subpar, so again, you turn it away. And this is based on the recollection of the prices paid in the past. So that being said, what is the most important decision when pricing? A couple of things to consider here. The initial price of the ticket, either for a new stadium or the new fan. And this is what is being done for traditionally non-revenue sports such as baseball, softball, etc. In line with this expected price threshold theory, there's also what we refer to as the tolerance zone. And this is raising the price in the zone of what they're willing to pay. So for example, if a ticket price increases by 50% versus an increase of $5, that's likely to be hurt attendance. Either way, if you look at a 50% increase, so if something's $1, goes up 50% to $1.50, you'll still pay it. If something's $10 and goes up 50% to $15, then you might think twice about it. And again, it depends on the service and it depends on how much you paid for that product in the past. Several methods that professional sport teams have been using or are going to use in the future to improve their ticket sales. As we've already mentioned, the languishing economy has slowed ticket sales to almost a crawl pace. So some of the examples above are some of the strategic examples that organizations have used or are going to use in order to generate more ticket sale revenue for their teams. The first idea is what we refer to as differential pricing. And this is a method in which a product has a different price based on the type of consumer, quantity, delivery time, payment terms, etc. This occurs when a company attempts to charge different prices for two different customers for what is essentially the same product. One place we all encounter this is in air travel, when it seems that no two passengers paid the same price for their tickets on any given flight. In sport, this means that pricing is dynamic or variable. The two variables to consider here, number one is time. The prices may vary at different times of the day, different weeks of the season, or different rounds of the playoffs. Number two is the place. The prices will vary and may vary depending on seating location in the venue. Teams will lower their prices during historically slow months to generate business and charge more for weekends than weekdays. Teams and organizations will charge more based on the competition as well. Here you see the games between UF and FSU or FSU and Miami ultimately charge higher premiums for those tickets. The second mode is what we call a flexible ticketing package. Full or half-season ticket plans are too expensive and offer little flexibility. More affordable ticket options are needed and available. For example, a 6-pack of tickets or a Hot Summer Nights ticket plan. Some of those kind of things are very flexible for season ticket buyers or for people that might be on the periphery of wanting to buy season tickets. Makes entry into the market that much easier for them. The mini ticket plan, the Brewers sort of made this phenomenon very noteworthy in the past couple of years. For example, they had struggling attendance and fostered this new ticketing procedure and increased sales by almost 43% the first year they rolled it out. They have this idea of an arch rival pack, which is 16 tickets to the team's most rivals. The Hot Summer Nights package, which is a 16-pack of tickets as well. They have game day tickets, so it's 16 day games. Or they have a Sunday pack of 13 tickets for a family. They also bundle tickets with sponsors' names, can be added to bonus for branding opportunities. For example, the Budweiser or Coors Light 6-pack of tickets. Most teams also offer what we call a money-back guarantee. This reduces the risk for the fan, and most people that weren't satisfied with the results of the games, therefore, renewed the plan. Some other sort of quick and dirty moves that teams have used to improve ticket sales. One is web-based ticketing, offers some greater distribution, interactive options, give the consumer the best fit. For example, you can bring up the schematic of the stadium and choose your different seats based on viewing locations and such. And this facilitates the resale of already purchased tickets. People that have bought them offer money-back guarantees, put them back in the system. Easy to resell through web-based ticketing because the consumer can see the entire inventory of tickets available. A great example of this was the San Francisco Giants. They allowed the ticket holder to resell the tickets at any prices above the face value. This reduced the number of no-shows and has led to the rapid emergence of the secondary ticket market, StubHub and others. The secondary ticket market is equally as important for the sport fan because they just want to get people in the door. They're selling the initial tickets. They don't really care above and beyond what the ticket goes for, just as long as the person shows up to the ballpark and spends their money in and around the ballpark. The secondary ticket market is estimated to be worth about $10 billion, and clearly the market exists, but why? The short answer here is that usually the demand for tickets at face value is far greater than the supply of those tickets. Allegedly. Doesn't really happen too much anymore, but we know that to be the case, and that's the emergence of the secondary market. On the other hand, people who buy tickets with the intention of reselling them create an open market where the value of tickets is more closely determined by the demand for them. So you can see sport teams and leagues use variable pricing methods and strategies in order to be able to sell tickets, increase attendance, and garner much needed revenue for their organizations.